You are watching PR English Shorthand Dictations YouTube channel.
This is English Shorthand dictation number 374 and the dictation speed is 100 words per minute. Ready? Start. Honorable Chairman Sir, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on the motion of thanks on the President's address. We know that it is customary that a president's address, though delivered by the Honorable President, is basically the government's policy which has been written by the government, and it is only through her that the government's policy is expressed. To add more evidence to that, our Honorable President, being a scheduled tribe person, has not been able to mention even a single word about the horrors which have happened in a northeastern state. If she had been given an opportunity, I am sure that she would have said at least a word of consolation or a word of confidence to the local people over there. It is sad that this government did not give her an opportunity to add even a single word or a single line to at least console the people of that region, to make them feel that they are also a part of this country and they are not alienated from this country. Sir, the President's address had a lot of points about development, growth, and GDP. This government has consistently been comparing what has happened in the last 10 years to the tenures prior to that. If you look at India, it is a culturally rich country and it has a very long heritage. If you look at India, even during the Mughal period, she was considered as one of the richest nations, accounting for something like 25 to 30% of the world's GDP. Subsequently, under the British rule, the wealth of India was siphoned off till the GDP of India came to around 1% or 2% of the world's GDP. So, after our independence in 1947, in the next 44 years, we had a very primitive way of looking at our economy. In those days, the country was at a nascent stage, and we had to make sure that the freedom that we had achieved in a peaceful way was protected. We were able to achieve our freedom because of the efforts of our great leaders. When India became free, many countries were saying that India would not remain a free nation for long and it would soon disintegrate and collapse. Despite that, nation building was the primary motive for the next 40 years. During that period, we also had to make sure that we have enough agricultural produce, enough milk produce, etc. From the Green Revolution to the White Revolution, everything was happening. It was only from 1991 that the economy of the country was opened up. If you see the growth of India since then, it has grown in a very successful and commendable way. If you look at the decadal growth from 1994, our GDP was about $300 billion in 1994, and we had touched $700 billion in 2004. That is about 130% growth, which means 13% annual growth that happened during that tenure. Subsequently, from 2004 to 2014, it went up from around $700 billion to $2.1 trillion. It was a very impressive 18% annual growth. It was 180% growth during that period. But if you look at what happened between 2014 and 2024, what was $2.1 trillion dollars has only reached $3.3 trillion dollars. I agree that there were big challenges like the pandemic and the war between Ukraine and Russia, which set back the whole world. But despite that, our growth could have been a little bit more promising. The growth that has happened in the last 10 years is only about 60%, which annually is about 6%. In her address, the president had mentioned that the inflation, which was 8% from 2004 to 2014, has been controlled and brought down to 5%. But you also have to understand that whenever such huge growth is happening, inflation is bound to be higher. This government has mentioned that they have brought 25 crore people out of poverty. I congratulate the government on this. But at the same time, the government also says that 80 crore people have been provided free food. 80 crore people is about 57% of the total population. If you are saying that 80 crore people had to be fed during the pandemic, that is understandable. But now that the pandemic is over and we have recovered from it and we are back to normal, continuing it for another 5 years is paradoxical and contradictory. You have eliminated poverty, but at the same time, you are saying that 80 crore people cannot afford to buy their own food. If this is the state of affairs, I really wonder which statement I should take as the true one. We were also talking about the Citizenship Amendment Act. It is restricted only to three countries. As our floor leader has also mentioned, we have sadly forsaken the Sri Lankan Tamils. There are more than 1 lakh Sri Lankan Tamils who are in India for more than 40 years. These people have been here since 1983. They have had children over here. None of them are given any of the facilities of this country. We have kept them as refugees for the past 40 years. They have been denied certain educational opportunities. Sir, this persecution was also religious and linguistic. You have to understand that Buddhism was the main religion in Sri Lanka. They had also said that non Sinhalese speaking people should not be staying there. This house must be aware of the horrors they went through in July 1983 when a large number of people were murdered and tortured.